Hey guys, it's me, Draco, with another lore video for you. Today, I wanted to talk about the origin story of Edwin VanCleef and how the Deadmines became a thing. VanCleef is one of the greatest human engineers in all of World of Warcraft's history, the leader of the Defias Brotherhood, and we'll also talk about how he became one of the most important criminals that threatens the Kingdom of Stormwind. Edwin VanCleef was a roof walker in Stormwind at one time, and he was specialized in defeating mechanical defenses. But when the Horde destroyed Stormwind, he was needed because of the skills he learned as a child from his father, a master stonemason and one of the first to offer a skill to rebuild Stormwind. Edwin VanCleef was one of the architects that helped rebuild Stormwind City after the Second War, and that was no easy task at all. But with VanCleef being the mastermind of the operation, the mission was completed smoothly and in under 10 years. However, what's known as the House of Nobles refused to pay the Stonemasons Guild for the work they did on rebuilding the city. Some of the higher-ranking stonemasons, VanCleef included, were offered jobs in their government if they didn't cause a ruckus about it. But Edwin VanCleef was not going to betray his workmen. He spit on the floor right in front of them and walked out of the halls that him and his workmen had just built, and he promised he'd make the city pay one way or another. Not long after that, the streets of Stormwind were filled with rioters. Several people even died during these riots, and one of them was the wife of the current king of Stormwind, Tiffin Wren. So VanCleef and some other artisans were cast out of the city gates. VanCleef took the group of artisans and tinkers that were sitting outside of Stormwind, and under him, they became the Defias Brotherhood. Edwin taught the stonemasons the skills he learned from Stormwind City's thieves. He helped the Defias adapt to the wild until they became experts at ambushing and robbing travelers. The Stormwind Guard began to respawn, so VanCleef and the tinkers of their group augmented the abilities of the renegades with mechanical weapons. VanCleef began to turn to more ruthless tactics, and any merchants that were bringing goods to Stormwind were robbed. The farmsteads that provided the city with food were razed or infested with harvest golems. As VanCleef continued to rob Stormwind in this way, he used the money he stole to pay for groups of mercenaries. And some of his men got captured, but even VanCleef, being the genius that he was actually able to play that to his advantage. Inside the stockade of Stormwind City, his men created a force for rebellion, and Stormwind and its townships were under an unexpected siege, and thanks to the acts of others, the town's cries just weren't heard. VanCleef continued to search for a secure location where he could build a tinker's works, and he ended up finding the Deadmines in Westfall. Once his laboratory was created, he entered the mines. The Brotherhood hired bandits and captured the goblins who inhabited Westfall and put them under Edwin's command. All different kinds of people joined the Defias Brotherhood. There were mercenaries, brigands, criminals, soldiers, outlaws, and rebels. And now the Defias was officially christened, and was founded as a tool for revenge. VanCleef and the other commanders of the Brotherhood like for their members to become masters at a wider variety of skills than just a regular soldier would be. And later on, the Defias, led by Edwin VanCleef, attempted to take over Elwyn Forest, but they did fail. After the Third War, Edwin VanCleef had rarely left the Deadmines in over 2 decades, but he knew of everything that happened over central Azeroth, especially where the Brotherhood was involved. From aboard a ship located within the Deadmines, VanCleef waited for many years for the perfect moment to strike and get revenge on Stormwind. However, before this took place, a group of quote-unquote heroes from the Alliance who had learned where the Defias Brotherhood's headquarters was, entered the Deadmines and attacked VanCleef's ship. They managed to defeat VanCleef, and the group of heroes took his head to Gryan Stoutmantle, who believed that that event was the end of the Defias Brotherhood. But they were left with a lingering worry that not all matters with the Brotherhood would be resolved. And events following proved that despite VanCleef's death, the plans for the Brotherhood were still underway. His death was later reported to King Varian, who informed Jaina Proudmoore of it, and they thought the Defias was broken. But Jaina eventually discovered that the Defias were still active, even in Dustwallow Marsh. Edwin's daughter, Vanessa VanCleef, who's been hiding under an alias, has become the new leader of the Defias. Who knows if they will ever be successful in destroying Stormwind? Only time will tell. Alright guys, I've been trying not to make extremely long videos lately, so I tried to shorten this one up as much as I could. Thanks for watching. Please let me know what you think, and if you have any questions or requests, please leave a comment. Or even if it's just some criticism, that would be great too. If you enjoyed the video, it'd be awesome if you could like or subscribe. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.